The alien mother was shocked. My daughter was infertile. How is she pregnant now? The colony on Zalera 7 was quiet that morning. The twin suns rose slowly over the horizon, casting a warm golden light across the silver-blue buildings. The alien city shimmered, reflecting both the advanced technology of the Xylers and the natural beauty of the planet. Birds with iridescent feathers flew across the sky, and the air hummed with gentle energy. Life on Zalera 7 was peaceful, and for many it seemed as though nothing could disturb this calm. Viorine, a respected scientist and mother, walked through the corridors of her home with a careful grace. Her long, silvery robes brushed against the floor as she moved. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, were filled with curiosity as always, but today there was a shadow of concern. Her daughter, Liara, had always been delicate. Liara had been born with a rare condition that made it impossible for her to have children. Viorine had accepted this fact years ago, as had the rest of the Xyler society. It was a quiet sorrow, but Viorine had loved her daughter fiercely, and that love had never diminished. Liara was in her room, seated at a table, carefully examining a small plant she had been nurturing. The plant was alien, a gift from the human scientists who had recently arrived on the planet. Humans had been visiting Zalera 7 for some time, establishing cultural exchanges and studying the Xyler technology. Liara had always been fascinated by humans. They were fragile, yet full of energy and creativity, and they approached life differently from the Xylers. "Mother," Liara said softly, looking up from her plant, "will you come with me to the garden today?" Viorine smiled faintly, nodding. "Of course, my child. The garden is beautiful this morning." The garden was a special place on Zalera 7. It was filled with plants from across the galaxy, all carefully cultivated and tended by the Xyler. The air was sweet with the scent of alien flowers, and the soft sound of water from small streams made the place feel alive. Liara loved the garden because it was peaceful, a place where she could think and dream. Today, however, Viorine felt a tension in her chest, a feeling she could not explain. Something about the morning felt different, though she could not say what it was. As they walked, Liara noticed that Viorine was unusually quiet. "Mother, are you all right?" she asked, placing a hand on Viorine's arm. Viorine hesitated, then shook her head. "I am well, my child, just thinking about the future." Liara nodded, but she did not press. She had learned that when her mother was deep in thought, it was better to wait and listen rather than ask questions. The morning passed peacefully. Birds sang, flowers swayed in the gentle breeze, and the humans in the colony conducted their research with careful precision. Liara helped them plant some new seedlings, her hands gentle but precise. She enjoyed learning about their methods, which were different from the Xyler way. Humans had a curiosity and energy that the Xylers found impressive. After lunch, Viorine received a message in her private communications chamber. It was from the medical unit, and the words made her heart stop. The scan results were unexpected. Viorine read the message again, slowly, unwilling to believe what she saw. The words were clear. Liara's body showed clear signs of pregnancy. Impossible. Liara could not have children. The medical technology of the Xylers was precise, and there could be no mistake. Viorine felt a wave of shock and disbelief. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the message. She closed her eyes, trying to steady herself. How could this be? She had studied Liara's biology for years, understood every detail, and yet the evidence was undeniable. Liara was carrying a child. Her mind raced with questions, fears, and confusion. How had this happened? What did it mean? Viorine made her way to Liara's room, her steps slow and measured. She needed to see her daughter to understand what was happening. Liara was sitting quietly, reading a small book about human culture. She looked up and smiled when she saw her mother. "Mother, you look worried," Liara said gently. "Is something wrong?" Viorine shook her head, forcing a calm expression. "Nothing, my child." "I just have some questions for you." Liara nodded, sensing that her mother's questions would be important. "I will answer anything, Mother." Viorine took a deep breath. "Liara, have you noticed anything unusual in your body recently? Anything at all?" Liara frowned slightly, thinking, "No, nothing unusual. I have felt well. Why do you ask?" Viorine's heart ached at the confusion and innocence in her daughter's voice. "It is just a question," she said carefully. "Sometimes the body can change in ways we do not expect." Liara continued to study her book, unaware of the storm brewing in her mother's mind. Viorine left the room quietly, needing time to think. She walked through the corridors of the colony, her mind racing. She considered all possibilities. Could it be a mistake in the medical scan? Unlikely. Could it be something humans had done? She had seen humans work with genetic material in their experiments, but she had never imagined it could result in this. Viorine decided she needed to speak with the human scientists. They had been studying life forms across the galaxy and had methods that even the Xylers found impressive. Perhaps they could explain what was happening. She contacted Dr. Elias, a human biologist who had become a close friend of the family. Doctor. Elias, Viorine began, her voice steady though her mind raced. I have received unexpected information about my daughter. I need your expertise. Dr. Elias paused, then nodded. Of course, Viorine, we will examine Liara carefully. We need to understand this fully. That afternoon, Liara underwent a series of scans under both Xyler and human supervision. The technology was advanced, able to detect every detail of her physiology. When the results came in, Viorine was stunned once again. Not only was Liara pregnant, but the child carried genetic markers from both species, human and Xyler. Viorine's mind reeled. She had studied hybridization, cross-species genetics, and the possibilities of interstellar life, but she had never imagined that such a thing could happen naturally. Her daughter, who had been infertile all her life, was now carrying a child unlike any other in the galaxy. She returned to Liara, careful not to alarm her. Liara, she said softly, we have discovered something remarkable. Liara looked at her mother with wide eyes. What is it? Viorine took a deep breath. You are carrying a child. It is unlike any child we have seen before. It carries the life of both humans and Xylers. Liara's eyes widened in shock. But how is that possible? Viorine shook her head slowly. I do not yet know. We must study this carefully and understand what has happened. Whatever the explanation, this child is special. Over the next few days, the colony buzzed with quiet excitement. News of the hybrid pregnancy spread among the scientists, though it was kept confidential to prevent panic. Humans and Xylers worked together, studying every aspect of Liara's condition. Viorine observed everything with a mixture of awe, fear, and pride. Her daughter was at the center of something that could change the understanding of life in the galaxy forever. Liara, meanwhile, adapted to the changes in her body with remarkable strength. She felt the life growing within her, a small but powerful presence. It was strange and wondrous, and though she did not understand fully, she felt connected to something larger than herself. The humans explained that the hybrid child could survive in conditions neither species could endure alone, a symbol of cooperation and adaptability. Viorine watched her daughter with pride. She realized that the fear she had felt was slowly giving way to hope. Her daughter, who had once been limited by biology, was now at the forefront of a new chapter for both humans and Xylers. The child represented a bridge between species, a possibility for collaboration and unity in a galaxy full of differences. As night fell over the colony, Viorine stood by the window looking at the twin suns setting. She thought of the future, of her daughter, and of the child growing within her. Though the path ahead was uncertain, she felt a spark of excitement. The universe was vast, and life was full of surprises. Sometimes the impossible could become reality. And for the first time in many years, Viorine allowed herself to believe in miracles. The days after the discovery of Liara's pregnancy were filled with a quiet tension in the Xyler colony. Viorine could feel it in every corridor, every laboratory, and even in the garden where her daughter spent her mornings. The colony was a place of order and calm, yet now whispers moved like shadows through its halls. Even though only a few knew the full truth, the air itself seemed charged with curiosity and uncertainty. Viorine walked carefully through the city, her mind a constant whirlwind. She had spent her life studying life forms, genetics, and biology. She had seen impossible things in the lab, but nothing like this. A child carrying both human and Xyler DNA, this was unprecedented. The implications stretched far beyond the safety of their colony. It was more than a miracle. It was a potential turning point in the history of both species. Liara, for her part, remained calm and strong. She spent her mornings in the garden, tending to the plants humans had introduced, learning about them, and even helping to test new hybrid seeds that could survive Zalara's 7 harsh climates. She seemed unaffected by the whispers, though she noticed them. She felt the child within her moving sometimes, tiny kicks that were foreign yet comforting. Sometimes, She would place a hand on her abdomen and feel a connection she could not fully explain. Viorine decided it was time to consult Dr. Elias and his team more closely. The humans were careful, thoughtful, and very precise in their research. They had always respected the Xylar ways, and now their knowledge would be vital in understanding this hybrid child. Viorine entered the laboratory, where Dr. Elias and two assistants were waiting. "Viorine," Dr. Elias greeted her warmly, "we've been running further tests. The results are fascinating." Viorine's eyes narrowed. "I need details, Elias. I cannot accept vague statements when this concerns my daughter." Dr. Elias nodded, adjusting his glasses. "Of course." Liara's cells show extraordinary adaptability. Every genetic marker is stable, which is unusual for a hybrid. Normally, combining two species would create instability, but this child's DNA is perfectly balanced. We have never seen anything like it. Viorine's chest tightened. "And the child? Healthy," Dr. Elias replied. "And developing rapidly. Liara's body seems to support accelerated growth. This could mean the child will be more resilient than either species alone." Viorine felt a mixture of awe and worry. The Xylars had always valued stability, precision, and predictability. The humans were adaptable, curious, and resilient. This child combined the best of both worlds, but it also brought uncertainty. That evening, Viorine returned home. She found Liara sitting quietly, looking out over the city as the twin suns dipped below the horizon. "Mother," Liara said softly, "I feel different. I feel the child moving more. I can sense it." Viorine nodded, sitting beside her daughter. "It is natural, Liara. This child is unique, and you are learning to feel what we cannot always see." Liara looked at her mother, concern in her eyes. "Do you think the colony will accept me? The humans? The child?" Viorine took her daughter's hands in her own. "Some may not understand, but others will. You and this child are the beginning of something new. We must be strong and patient. Fear is only the first reaction of those who cannot yet see the future." Days passed, and the scientists continued their work. The humans worked alongside the Xylars, running scans, analyzing cells, and observing Liara carefully. They asked questions about her diet, her daily activities, and even her emotional state. Liara cooperated fully, understanding that knowledge was key to protecting herself and the child. One afternoon, Dr. Elias called Viorine aside. "I need to show you something," he said. He led her to a small observation chamber, where monitors displayed live readings of Liara's body and the developing child. Viorine watched in amazement. The child's brain activity was far more advanced than expected for its stage. Neural connections formed rapidly, almost as if it were learning from Liara directly. The child seemed aware of its surroundings, reacting to changes in light and sound. "This is beyond anything I have ever seen," Viorine whispered. Dr. Elias nodded gravely. "It's as if the child is already preparing for challenges we cannot even imagine. It is intelligent in ways neither species has experienced before. We must be careful." Viorine felt a mixture of pride and fear. She realized that her daughter carried more than a child. She carried the future. This was not just about life. It was about the survival and growth of both species. The hybrid child represented something bigger than either humans or Xylars alone. That night, Viorine could not sleep. She wandered through the quiet corridors of the colony, thinking of what the future might hold. The Xylars were a proud species, cautious and deliberate. Humans were daring, creative, and bold. This child combined both approaches. If nurtured carefully, it could teach both species lessons they had never known. Liara, meanwhile, was growing stronger. Her body adapted to the pregnancy with remarkable efficiency. She learned to sense the child's movements, and sometimes she felt emotions and thoughts that seemed to come from the child itself. At first, she was frightened, but over time, she accepted it as natural. The child was extraordinary, and Liara felt proud and protective. As word spread quietly among the scientists, some Xylars began to show signs of discomfort. They whispered in corridors, expressing doubts and fear. A hybrid child was something no one had ever anticipated. Some feared it would upset the balance of their society, challenging centuries of knowledge and tradition. Viorine felt the weight of these concerns pressing on her. She knew she would have to defend her daughter and the child against skepticism and fear. One morning, a group of Xylar Council members visited Viorine. Their expressions were serious, almost cold. "Viorine," one of them said. "We have received reports about Liara's condition. We require clarification." Viorine met their eyes firmly. Clarification. The child is developing normally. The scientists have confirmed it is healthy and intelligent. This is not a threat, it is a gift. The council members exchanged glances, unconvinced. "A gift," another said. "You speak of a hybrid as though it is natural. This child is unknown. Its existence challenges the very principles of Xyler biology." Viorine took a deep breath. "Yes, it challenges our understanding, but challenge is not always a danger. This child is proof that life can adapt, that cooperation can create something greater than either species alone. Fear will not protect us. Knowledge will." The council members were silent, and after a tense moment they left. Viorine felt a mixture of relief and unease. She knew the struggle was only beginning. Some would resist, some would doubt, and some might even try to interfere. She had to prepare herself and her daughter for what lay ahead. Liara noticed the tension in the home. "Mother," she said, "do you think they will accept the child?" Viorine smiled faintly. Some will not, but you are strong and this child is strong. Together you will face whatever comes." Weeks passed and Liara's pregnancy progressed. The child grew rapidly, displaying intelligence and awareness that amazed both humans and Xylers. It responded to Liara's touch, and sometimes it seemed to anticipate her thoughts. The bond between mother and child was extraordinary, something beyond simple biology. Humans and Xylers worked together, developing technologies to ensure the child's safety and comfort. They created a nurturing environment, filled with light, warmth, and gentle energy fields that simulated both Earth and Xylera conditions. Liara thrived in this environment, and the child responded positively, growing stronger every day. Viorine spent hours observing, learning, and protecting. She realized that the child was not only her grandchild, but also a symbol of unity between species. This was the beginning of something greater than any one civilization, a chance to build a future together. One evening, as the twin suns set and the sky turned shades of violet and gold, Liara placed her hands on her abdomen. "I feel it moving," she whispered. "It is aware of me." Viorine nodded, her heart full of pride. "It knows you, Liara. It knows you because it is part of you and you are part of it. This is the beginning of a new path for all of us." The colony seemed quiet, but beneath the surface, a new energy was growing. Life, in its most remarkable form, was preparing to make its presence known. And Viorine, once filled with fear and doubt, now felt hope. Hope for her daughter, hope for the child, and hope for the unity of all life in the galaxy. As night fell completely, the stars sparkled like diamonds across the sky. Viorine and Liara sat together, watching in silence. The universe was vast, mysterious, and full of challenges, but it was also full of possibilities. They both understood that their lives had changed forever, that the child growing within Liara carried the promise of a future no one had dared to imagine. And deep within the silence of the night, Viorine whispered a quiet vow. She would protect her daughter. She would protect this child, and she would do everything in her power to help them show the universe what was possible when life came together, even across the boundaries of worlds. The first stirrings of the hybrid child were not just movement, they were a message. A message that life could adapt, evolve, and unite in ways no one had yet dreamed. And as Viorine held her daughter's hand, she knew that their journey was only just beginning. The mornings on Xylera 7 had a calm that seemed ordinary, yet for Viorine and Liara, nothing was ordinary anymore. The discovery of the hybrid child had changed everything. Even in the garden with sunlight reflecting off the alien leaves, there was a tension that could not be ignored. The colony carried on with its usual work, but whispers followed Viorine wherever she went. People were curious, cautious, and for some, fearful. Liara walked through the garden, her hands brushing over the soft leaves. She felt the child moving again, small but insistent. It was different from before, more deliberate, more conscious. She paused, placing her hand on her stomach, sensing the child's awareness. She wondered if the child could understand her thoughts or if it was just instinct. Either way, the bond was undeniable. Viorine joined her, moving quietly beside her daughter. "It seems the child is growing stronger each day," she said softly. "More aware, more present." Liara nodded. "I can feel it, Mother. Sometimes it feels like it knows what I am thinking before I even think it." Viorine frowned slightly, unsure whether to feel proud or concerned. This level of awareness was unprecedented. No hybrid, no human, no Xyler had ever shown such intelligence at this stage of development. And yet there was something beautiful about it, a sign that the child was extraordinary even beyond her expectations. The human scientists had been studying the child carefully. Doctor. Elias spent hours observing, taking notes, and running scans. He often called Viorine to review the data. Viorine, he said one morning, I believe we are seeing something remarkable. The child's neural development is not just accelerated, it is adaptive. It responds to stimuli in ways that suggest it is learning and understanding concepts even before birth. Viorine's eyes widened. Learning, understanding, how is that possible? Dr. Elias shook his head. We cannot explain it fully yet. But it is as if the child is preparing itself for life outside the womb, already processing information and responding to its environment. Viorine felt a shiver run down her spine. This was no ordinary pregnancy. Liara carried a child that might change the understanding of life itself. It was thrilling and frightening. That evening, Viorine decided she needed to speak directly with Liara about everything. She found her daughter in the observation chamber, reading a book about human space exploration. Liara, Viorine began gently, we need to talk about what is happening inside you. This child, it is unlike anything we have ever known. Liara looked up, her eyes wide but calm. I know, Mother, I feel it. It is different, but I also feel connected. I think it wants to communicate in its own way. Viorine took a deep breath. I believe that, too. We have learned that the child is intelligent, adaptive, and aware. It may even be learning from you directly. Liara's eyes brightened. Then we need to understand it, not just protect it, but learn from it. Viorine nodded slowly. Yes, but we must be careful. There are others in the colony who do not understand. Some may see this child as a threat. Liara placed a hand on her mother's arm. Then we will show them it is not. We will prove that life, even in unexpected forms, can bring hope. The next few days were filled with careful study and observation. Liara spent time in the chamber, where both human and Xyler scientists monitored her health and the child's development. They discovered something astonishing. The child's DNA was not only stable but also highly flexible. It could adapt to different environments at a cellular level, potentially surviving conditions that neither humans nor Xylers could endure alone. Viorine watched in awe. It is more than just a hybrid, she whispered to Dr. Elias. It is a bridge. A bridge between species, between worlds. Dr. Elias nodded. Exactly, but with great potential comes great responsibility. We must guide this child carefully. Meanwhile, rumors began to circulate in the colony. Some Xylers were uneasy about the child, questioning whether it was natural or dangerous. Others were curious, eager to see the possibilities. Viorine felt the tension but refused to let it affect her or Liara. One afternoon, a small group of council members came to visit. They were older, respected Xylers who had lived long lives and prided themselves on understanding the ways of the colony. Viorine, one said, we are concerned about your daughter. Reports suggest her pregnancy is unusual, even unnatural. How can we trust that this will not harm the colony? Viorine met their eyes steadily. The child is healthy. It is intelligent and aware. It is a gift, not a danger. Fear will not protect us. Understanding will. The council members frowned, unconvinced. This is unprecedented. We cannot simply accept what we do not understand. Viorine's voice was calm but firm. Then we will help you understand. We will show you that this child represents the future of cooperation, not destruction. The council members left, but their concern remained. Viorine knew they would watch closely, waiting for any sign of trouble. She understood their fear. Change was never easy, even when it was good. Liara, for her part, began to notice more about the child's abilities. It seemed to react not only to touch, but also to her emotions. When she felt happy, the child moved energetically. When she felt worried, the movements were slower, more deliberate. It was as if the child was learning empathy, understanding feelings before birth. One evening, Liara told her mother, I think it can sense people's intentions, Mother. It knows when someone is afraid or kind. I feel it learning from everyone around me. Viorine nodded thoughtfully. That is extraordinary, intelligence and empathy together. This child may teach us more than we ever imagined. The humans were equally fascinated. Dr. Elias and his team began to test subtle environmental changes, observing the child's reactions. Lights dimmed, sounds shifted, and even gentle vibrations were introduced. Each time, the child responded with awareness, adjusting its movements and patterns. It was as if it were preparing itself for a world full of challenges, a world that would be different from either humans or Xyler's experiences alone. But not everyone was supportive. Some Xylers whispered that the child was unnatural, a mistake, or even a threat. Virene heard their voices in the corridors, felt their skepticism in the council chambers. She realized that while some might celebrate the child, others might try to interfere. She resolved that she would protect Liara and the child at all costs. One night, Virene and Liara sat together in the garden, the twin moons casting silver light over the leaves. Liara placed her hand on her stomach. "I can feel it moving more strongly tonight," she said softly. "It is almost like it wants to speak, but it cannot yet." Virene smiled gently. "Patience, my child. All understanding comes in time. We will guide it, teach it, and protect it. And when the world is ready, it will show itself to everyone." The next morning brought a new discovery. The scientists detected a pattern in the child's neural activity that suggested memory formation. Even before birth, the child was storing information, possibly from Liara's experiences and emotions. Virene felt a mixture of wonder and caution. This level of cognitive ability was extraordinary. Dr. Elias explained, "This means the child may be learning from Liara directly, absorbing knowledge and understanding even before entering the world." "It is unlike anything we have ever seen," Virene nodded. "We must ensure the environment is safe, supportive, and full of knowledge. It will shape the child's understanding of life itself." Weeks passed, and the colony continued its careful observation. Liara's bond with the child deepened. She could almost feel the child's thoughts, tiny sparks of curiosity and awareness that made her smile. The hybrid child was no longer just a concept or a possibility. It was real, alive, and growing stronger every day. One day, Liara asked her mother, "Do you think it will be accepted by both species, mother? Humans and Xylers?" Virene considered this carefully. "Some will accept it, some will not. But this child is a symbol of what is possible. It represents hope, unity, and strength. Those who are open-minded will learn, and those who fear change will have to adapt." Liara nodded, her eyes shining. "Then we will show them, mother. We will teach them that life can grow in ways we cannot always predict. We will protect it, and it will protect us in return." As the twin suns set that evening, Virene felt a sense of calm settle over her. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges, doubts, and fears. But she knew one thing with certainty. The hybrid child represented the best of both humans and Xylers, a bridge that could unite worlds. And as Liara rested, placing her hand on her growing abdomen, Virene whispered a quiet promise. She would protect this child, guide it, and help it fulfill its destiny. The universe was full of surprises, and this child was the most remarkable of them all. The first stirrings of true understanding were beginning. The hybrid child, growing stronger each day, was preparing to meet the world in ways no one could yet imagine. And for Virene and Liara, this journey was only beginning. The days on Zalera 7 had grown tense, though the twin suns continued to rise and set as if nothing had changed. For Virene and Liara, however, nothing was ordinary. The hybrid child growing within Liara had become a focal point of curiosity, hope, and concern for the entire colony. Even the humans, who had always been adventurous and open-minded, watched with awe and careful caution. Virene walked through the corridors of the colony early one morning. The air hummed with quiet activity as scientists and Xylers prepared for another day of research. She could feel the eyes of many upon her, sensing the importance of what was happening. The whispers that had begun months earlier had grown louder, carried on the quiet winds of curiosity and skepticism. Some Xylers questioned the very nature of the hybrid child, wondering if it was a gift or a threat. Others admired the courage of Liara, who faced every challenge with grace and strength. Liara was in her room, tending to the small plants she had brought from the human colony. She moved carefully, aware that her body now carried more than just her own life. Each step was measured, each movement deliberate, as if she were aware of the responsibility that had been placed upon her. The child moved often, small but purposeful gestures that reminded her of its presence. Sometimes she could feel its awareness, almost as if it were observing the world around it. Virene entered the room quietly, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "It is time we speak, Liara. The colony is preparing for a discussion about your child." They have questions, concerns, doubts. Liara nodded. I expected this. They are afraid of what they do not understand. But mother, we cannot let fear guide us. The child is a symbol of what can be achieved when life works together, not separately. Viorine smiled faintly, proud of her daughter's wisdom. You are right, but we must be careful. Words are powerful. Actions are even more so. Later that morning, the council convened. Members of the Xylar leadership, along with human representatives, gathered in the central chamber. Viorine and Liara entered, accompanied by Dr. Elias and his team. The room was filled with tension. Every eye seemed to be studying them, waiting for answers, for explanations, for signs of danger. One of the council elders spoke first. Viorine, Liara, we acknowledge the reports. This child you carry is unlike anything we have seen. We must understand the implications. Is it safe? Will it disrupt our society, our biology? Viorine stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. The child is healthy, intelligent, and aware. Its development is remarkable, yes, but it is not a threat. It represents unity, adaptation, and the future of cooperation between species. Fear should not guide our decisions. Knowledge should. A murmur spread through the chamber. Some Xylars nodded, considering her words. Others frowned, unconvinced. The humans remained quiet, trusting Viorine's wisdom. Another elder spoke, skepticism in his voice. And yet it is different. It carries both human and Xylar DNA. Such hybrids are unknown. Could it survive outside the womb? Could it develop in ways we cannot predict? Doctor. Elias stepped forward. We have monitored the child carefully. Its development is not only stable but advanced. It is aware, responsive, and adaptable. It is a new form of life, yes, but one that can thrive in ways neither species could alone. Viorine took Liara's hand gently. This child is more than biology. It is a message that life can grow in harmony across boundaries, across worlds. We must embrace it, not fear it. The chamber fell silent. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Some Xylars still doubted, but others felt a spark of hope, a realization that the future could indeed be different from the past. After the meeting, Viorine and Liara returned to their home. The tension had not disappeared, but a sense of cautious optimism lingered. Liara placed her hands on her stomach, feeling the child's movements. It is growing stronger, she whispered. I think it senses what happened today. It knows we are speaking for it, guiding it. Viorine nodded. Yes, and it will continue to learn to grow. But the challenges are not over. There are forces in the galaxy that may not understand this child, that may see it as a threat. Days passed, and the hybrid child continued to develop at an extraordinary pace. Its neural activity suggested intelligence far beyond what was expected for its stage. It responded to both Liara's emotions and the environment around it. When she felt joy, the child moved energetically. When she felt worry, it became still, almost thoughtful. Viorine observed these patterns with a mixture of awe and careful concern. One morning, Viorine received a message from the outer research station. Viorine, the message read, we have detected unusual activity near the colony's edge. An unidentified vessel has been observing from the dark regions of space. Viorine's heart quickened. Unidentified, she whispered. The Xylars had no reason to fear other species, as most civilizations had avoided Zalara 7 due to its remote location. Yet the presence of this vessel suggested that the hybrid child's existence might soon draw attention. She shared the news with Liara. We must be prepared, she said. This child is extraordinary, and there are those who may see it as a threat. We must protect it. Liara placed her hand on her mother's arm. We will, mother. I will not let anything happen to it. The child has already shown how strong it can be, and so have we. The humans increased their monitoring, scanning the skies for any signs of approach. Doctor. Elias worked with Viorine to develop protective measures, not weapons, but shields and containment fields to ensure the child's safety. Every precaution was taken to prevent harm. Despite the looming threat, life continued in the colony. Liara spent her days in the garden, observing the plants, reading about human and Xylar science, and connecting with the child. Viorine spent hours in the laboratory, analyzing data and planning for every possibility. Together they worked tirelessly, united by a bond of love and responsibility. One evening, Liara noticed something new. The child seemed to respond not only to her emotions, but also to subtle external cues, light, sound, and movement. It was as if the child was learning to anticipate changes in its environment, preparing itself for the challenges that lay ahead. "Mother," she said softly, "it is adapting. I think it knows something is coming. It is preparing." Viorine looked thoughtful. "Yes. It is stronger than we imagined, and we must be ready as well. The universe is vast, and there are many who may not understand, but we will face them together." The days grew tense as the unidentified vessel remained nearby. Scouts reported that the ship seemed to be observing quietly, but its intentions were unclear. The colony increased security, though Viorine insisted that they act with caution, not aggression. The child's safety was paramount, but they did not want to provoke unnecessary conflict. Liara continued to bond with the child. She spoke to it softly, telling it stories of the humans, the Xylers, and the stars they would one day explore together. The child responded with subtle movements, as if acknowledging her words, learning from every story and every thought. Viorine watched them together and felt a deep sense of pride. "This child," she whispered to herself, "is the future. It will teach us what we cannot yet imagine." One morning, the scouts reported movement near the outskirts of the colony. The unidentified vessel had sent smaller probes, circling cautiously, observing without making contact. The humans and Xylers worked quickly to analyze the probes, discovering that their technology was advanced, yet unfamiliar. Viorine realized that the child's presence might attract attention beyond the colony, beyond Zalera 7 itself. Its existence was unprecedented, and some species might see it as a threat or an opportunity. She knew that Liara and the child could not remain isolated forever. "We must teach the colony and the humans to protect it," she said to Dr. Elias. "We cannot hide the child, but we can guide its introduction to the galaxy carefully, thoughtfully." Dr. Elias nodded. "Agreed, and we must ensure that it has the tools to survive and thrive. Its intelligence and adaptability are remarkable, but it must also be prepared for what lies beyond." Liara listened, understanding the responsibility placed upon them. She placed her hand on her stomach. "It is already learning," she said. "It is already preparing. We just have to guide it, Mother." The days passed, and the hybrid child continued to grow stronger. Its awareness expanded, its intelligence deepened, and its connection with Liara became more profound. Viorine and the humans continued their careful observation, documenting every movement, every reaction, every sign of learning. The unidentified vessel remained on the edge of the system, silent but watchful. Viorine knew it was only a matter of time before contact was made. She understood that the child's extraordinary nature could not remain secret forever. And as the twin suns set that evening, casting long shadows across the colony, Viorine, Liara, and the child prepared for the challenges ahead. They did not know what awaited them, but they knew one thing with certainty. Together they were strong, and together they could face the universe itself. The child stirred gently within Liara, responding to her touch, to her voice, to the world around it. It was learning, adapting, preparing. And soon, the galaxy would know that life, in its most extraordinary form, could grow in ways no one had ever imagined. The night on Zalera 7 was calm, but a sense of anticipation filled the air. The twin moons hung low, casting silver light across the gardens and the buildings of the colony. Viorine walked through the corridors, her mind focused and alert. Liara's pregnancy had reached a stage where the child's arrival was imminent. Every step, every breath, every heartbeat seemed to carry the weight of the universe itself. Liara was in her private chamber, seated on a soft mat, meditating as she had learned to do. Her hands rested gently on her abdomen, feeling the child's subtle movements. Each motion was deliberate, almost as if the child were preparing for what was to come. She could feel a bond growing stronger with every passing moment, a connection that went beyond biology, beyond understanding. Viorine entered quietly, standing beside her daughter. "Are you ready, Liara?" she asked softly. Liara nodded. "I think so, Mother. The child is ready, I can feel it, and I feel confident, not just for me, but for everything that is about to change." Viorine smiled, though her heart was still heavy with concern. "The world outside is watching, whether we like it or not. The humans, the council, even those who doubt us, they are all waiting. But we will face this together, and we will protect the child." The humans had prepared a secure chamber with advanced monitoring systems, designed to ensure both Liara's safety and the child's health. Dr. Elias was present, along with a team of skilled human and Xyler scientists. They had anticipated complications, but everything indicated that this birth would be unlike any other. As the hours passed, the child's movements grew stronger, more pronounced. Liara felt waves of energy and awareness, as though the child were sending messages through her very body. It was as if the child were not just responding to life, but interacting with it, learning and preparing for the first moments outside the womb. Viorine held her daughter's hand tightly. "You are strong, Liara, and so is the child. Trust in yourselves, trust in what you have become together." The process began slowly. The hybrid child was extraordinary, and its birth did not follow ordinary patterns. Liara remained calm, focusing on her breathing, on the connection she felt with the child. The team of scientists monitored every signal, noting the child's intelligence and responsiveness even in these final stages. Hours passed, and the tension in the chamber was palpable. Every sound, every shift of movement, every change in Liara's body was observed with care, and then, suddenly, a moment of profound silence. The child paused, almost as if taking its first conscious breath. Liara felt a surge of emotion. "It is ready, mother," she whispered. "It is truly ready." With gentle guidance from Viorine and the scientists, Liara concentrated on the energy flowing within her. She felt the child moving, aware, and strong. It was a moment of extraordinary connection. She spoke softly, telling stories of the stars, of humans and Xylers, and of the hope they represented. The child responded with subtle movements, acknowledging every word, every thought, every intention. Finally, after hours of careful observation and guidance, the child emerged. The hybrid infant was unlike anything anyone had seen. Its skin shimmered faintly, reflecting both the light of the Zalera moons and an inner glow of vitality. Its eyes opened, wide and aware, taking in the chamber, the scientists, the city, and the universe beyond. Viorine gasped softly, tears of pride and relief in her eyes. "It is perfect," she whispered. Dr. Elias, normally composed and analytical, could not hide his astonishment. "It is extraordinary," he said. "The intelligence, the awareness, it is beyond what we predicted. This child is a new chapter for life itself." Liara held the child close, feeling its heartbeat against her own. The bond between them was immediate, deep, and unbreakable. She could feel the child's consciousness, a presence that was both familiar and awe-inspiring. It was as if the child understood its place in the universe, and even in this first moment, it radiated potential and promise. Viorine looked around at the humans and Xylers present. "This child is not just ours," she said quietly. "It belongs to the universe. It is a symbol of what can happen when life works together, when species learn from one another, when fear is replaced by understanding." The news of the birth spread quickly, though cautiously, through the colony. Some Xylers still struggled with doubt, but many were moved by the child's presence, its calm awareness, and the bond it shared with Liara. Humans and Xylers alike marveled at the possibilities this child represented. Over the next few days, Liara and the child grew closer. The child's intelligence and awareness increased rapidly, responding to speech, touch, and even subtle gestures. It seemed to recognize individuals, learning from them, understanding emotions, and adapting to its environment. Viorine observed quietly, amazed at the child's resilience and adaptability. One morning, Liara spoke softly to her mother. "Mother, it seems to understand more than we expect. It reacts not just to us, but to the world outside. It is aware of the stars, the colony, and even the humans who came to help us." Viorine nodded. "That is the gift of life, Liara. Adaptability, intelligence, and the ability to learn. This child embodies everything we hope for: strength, understanding, and unity." The external vessel that had been observing the colony approached cautiously. Sensors detected its presence, but it did not attack. Instead, it seemed curious, perhaps cautious. The scientists prepared to make contact, but Viorine realized that the child itself might influence the encounter. Liara held the child, speaking softly, sending calm energy and thoughts through their bond. As the vessel's instruments scanned the colony, the hybrid child responded subtly, radiating a sense of awareness, calm, and intelligence. The vessel paused, its movements hesitant, almost reverent. Viorine realized that this child, this hybrid of human and Xyler life, had already begun to communicate in ways no words could convey. Its presence alone commanded attention, respect, and understanding. The universe was taking notice. The following days were filled with quiet celebration and careful observation. Liara's bond with the child continued to deepen. The humans documented every movement, every response, every sign of intelligence. They marveled at how quickly the child learned, how it adapted to the environment, and how it seemed to anticipate challenges. Viorine spent her time guiding the scientists and the Xylers, teaching them to approach the child with respect and patience. She emphasized the importance of understanding, of nurturing, and of preparing for a future that was now broader than they had ever imagined. The council, initially skeptical, visited to witness the child. They observed its awareness, its interactions with Liara, and the intelligence that radiated from its every movement. One by one, their doubts began to fade. They saw not a threat, but a new possibility, a bridge between species, a symbol of hope, and a living example of cooperation and unity. As the weeks passed, the child continued to grow, both in physical strength and in awareness. It responded to challenges, adapted to the environment, and even began to exhibit early signs of reasoning. Liara and Viorine marveled at each milestone, understanding that they were witnessing the beginning of a new era. One evening, as the twin moons reflected off the surface of Zalera 7, Liara spoke softly to the child. "You are strong, aware, and ready for the future. You carry the hope of humans, Xylers, and perhaps many others. We will guide you, protect you, and help you become what you are meant to be." Viorine watched, tears in her eyes, filled with pride and awe. "This is the future, Liara. This child is the bridge we have been waiting for, and together we will show the universe what is possible." The external vessel, which had observed quietly for weeks, finally made contact. Its inhabitants, cautious and intelligent, approached the colony with respect. They witnessed the hybrid child, saw its awareness, and understood that it was not a threat. Instead, they recognized a new form of life, an extraordinary being that combined the strengths of two species. The encounter was peaceful, a testament to the child's presence and the guidance of Viorine and Liara. The visitors learned from the humans and Xylers, understanding that cooperation, respect, and unity could achieve what had once seemed impossible. Over the following months, the child continued to grow, becoming stronger and more aware with each passing day. Humans and Xylers worked together to nurture it, sharing knowledge, culture, and experiences. The child became a living symbol of what could be achieved when life worked together, transcending species and worlds. Viorine often held the child, marveling at the intelligence, adaptability, and empathy it displayed. Liara watched with wonder as the child learned from every interaction, every experience, every thought. Together, they prepared for a future that was now brighter, richer, and more extraordinary than they had ever imagined. And as the twin suns rose on Zalera 7 one morning, Viorine, Liara, and the hybrid child stood together, looking toward the stars. The universe was vast, full of unknown challenges and possibilities. But they knew one thing with certainty. Life, in its most remarkable form, could adapt, evolve, and unite in ways no one had ever dreamed. The hybrid child, glowing faintly with vitality and awareness, reached out its tiny hands, touching both its mother and grandmother. In that moment, Viorine felt a surge of hope, a vision of the future where humans, Xylers, and perhaps many other species could coexist, learn from one another, and grow together. And in that quiet, brilliant moment, Viorine understood the truth. This child was not just a miracle, not just a bridge, but a promise that life, courage, and unity could overcome fear, ignorance, and uncertainty. The galaxy had witnessed the beginning of something extraordinary, and humanity, along with the Xylers, could finally say, life, in its most wondrous form, could shine brighter than anyone had ever imagined.